What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Breaking and Entering Podcast. Today, I'm excited. We're talking about the AFC North. I'm excited because I want to hear Brandon's thoughts on all these teams. First, Brandon, how we doing today, man?
I'm doing counting down to the season. I think we got just over a week till Cowboys and Eagles in Philly, and the remainder of the games the following Sunday and Monday. So yeah, oh, and the Friday too. Yeah, we got a lot of football that weekend,
Yeah, we
right
got a
after Labor
Friday
Day.
game. The last week
Yep.
preseason too, and then cut down days. I know a lot of people going to be nervous and stuff for the teams. But yeah, man, let's just get into it, shall we? Just open the drive going.
All right, now two-time Pro Bowl running back James Cook, he signed a 4-year extension with the Bills. Eagles wide receiver Johnny Wilson, he's out for the season with an ankle injury. Wide receiver Sky Moore, he's been traded from the Chiefs to the 49ers. Quarterback Joe Flacco, he's been named the week one starter for the Browns. Daniel Jones, he'll be the starter for the Colts week one, named by head coach Shane Steichen earlier this week. Steelers first round pick Derek Harmon, he's dealing with a knee sprain. He suffered Thursday nights in their Thursday night preseason win finale at Carolina. Fortunately for him, it wasn't as bad as it looked. I think he was carted off the field. Former Pro Bowl guard Brandon Sheriff, he's decided to retire. He played several years with the Jags and the Commanders. And Hall of Fame running back Eric Dickerson says he was told by a reliable source that it may have been sources that the NFL told teams not to draft Browns rookie quarterback Shador Sanders. I know Ed, you have some thoughts on that Shador
Yeah,
developments just came down recently.
really, we talked about it a little bit. I'm glad to see like NFL legend like Eric Dickerson come out and say it as well. Kind of validates what I've been thinking of like this whole thing. They were trying to embarrass Dion and his family, trying to humble him, make him just knock him down a peg. Honestly, the whole situation with them coming in, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, drafted Dylan Gabriel. Only reason Shador even got a chance, in my opinion, to start playing or even start that game against the Panthers was due to injuries and things like that. Circumstances happened, and he was able to, show that what he was made of in preseason, but still, he showed some good talent. So yeah, man, just interesting to hear that. I doubt there'll be any evidence unless somebody leaks an email from the NFL where they explicitly say, "Hey, don't do this," stuff like that. But I doubt they'll be able to actually prove it. But I'm pretty sure everybody knows that's kind of what happened. And you know what? Salute to Andrew Berry for going against the grain and drafting him. I don't know what's going to happen with that, how Shador is going to, work out, but good luck to the young man. Also, we talked earlier, I think it was last week, whenever we previewed the AFC South, it might have been a week after where we talked about all-season storylines. Daniel Jones is a starter. We were both hoping, I think a lot of Colts fans too, in my opinion, were hoping Anthony Richardson gets a start. I just think injuries and the inconsistency had a lot to do with that, mainly injuries though. He could potentially get a chance to play again because Daniel Jones, he has a little injury history as well, but we'll see how it goes with that.
And fumble history.
That's true, right? And tripping over grass
Yeah.
injury. But let me
Yep.
stop.
For sure. And one more thought on that Shador Sanders situation. I think it should be some sort of investigation into that because, in my thoughts, the only person or people that should tell you not to draft someone are the people that basically was around him in college and high school. You know how the teams go through and they do these deep, um, I guess, like scouting in a sense on players,
Yeah,
try to get their background. Perhaps something was swept under the rug. Let's say charges were dropped against them or something like that. The scout team typically is able to find out during the draft process. But if it's coming from somebody inside the NFL, I mean, from as far as I understand, they're not technically supposed to say that, especially on a guy that hadn't even played in the league. You know what I'm saying? I can see if he was cut right now by the Browns and somebody else tried to pick him up, they call for a reference to Cleveland and say, okay, hey, what was going on there? And let's say Shador was maybe late to practice every day. That I can understand, but he wasn't even in the NFL at the time when this, was happening. This was before the draft, so that's not a good look on the NFL. on
Yeah,
those terms. Yeah.
yeah,
All
sure.
right. So Ed has been adamant all offseason that the Bengals defense won't get much better this season, but does he still feel the same about the Bengals in 2025?
I do. I'm still waiting to see if they're gonna, resign Trey Hendrickson. I haven't heard anything on that front as far as his contract being extended. They definitely need him. Let's look into the draft and see who they got in the draft. They first round, Shamar Stewart, defensive end out of Texas A&M. Second round, they drafted a linebacker, Demetrius Knight Jr. Both of these guys were having contract issues to start. The second rounders wanted a lot more guaranteed money than the first rounder. There was language in the contract that they were trying to get fixed and worked out. I believe everything is good so far. Going further into the draft, they drafted a lineman for offensive guard in the third round, Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia. They drafted a linebacker, Barrett Carter, out of Clemson in the fourth round. Fifth round, another lineman, lineman, Jalen Rivers out of Miami. Then running back in the sixth round, Taj Brooks. Like you said, the defense last year was a joke. I didn't I don't want to say I didn't like it, but they were just horrible. They definitely made some noise, re-signing guys that they needed on the offensive side of the bar. T. Higgins, he got paid. Um, Jamar Chase, he got paid. I'm looking at some of the free agencies signings they have. A sneaky one that I'm gonna be paying a lot of attention to is Noah Fant. He played a lot of years with the Seahawks back in the day, tight end. I think that's a really sneaky signing. I know Joe Burrows has his favorites and targets, but I feel like if he gets a connection going, Noah Fant could make some noise out there. I think I'm gonna be paying attention to that, see how that goes throughout the season. But I'm looking at some of the departures they had, as you mentioned. Lou Anarumo, he got fired. He was replaced by Al Golden. Defensive lineman Sheldon Rankins, he's gone. Linebackers Akeem Davis Gaither, Jermaine Pratt, and Joe Bakey. Excuse me if I said that name wrong. All left the team. Then Von Bell, he's gone. Trent Brown, offensive tackle, he's gone as well. They did draft a bunch of people on the defensive side, as I mentioned earlier. Looking at who they picked up in free agency, TJ Slayton, defensive tackle from the Packers. They signed him to a 2-year deal. And they also picked up linebacker Oren Burks. So we'll see these new additions make any, noise on the defensive side of the ball. Honestly, I'm not too sure though. I mean, I know it's preseason, but I was watching the preseason game when they played against my Commanders, and the defense didn't look too great out there. We were marching down the field on them with relative ease, but it's preseason, so who knows? But honestly, I see the same type of stuff happening, especially without Trey Hendrickson. Now, this Shamar Stewart, gentleman, rookie out of Texas A&M, who knows? He could be, the next LT, Lawrence Taylor. But if they don't have Trey Hendrickson on that defensive line, I'll be really shocked if they make noise without him. I think they're going to need him. And even with him, and this is 17 and a half sacks last year, they were still trash on the defense side of the ball. I mean, pretty much Jaden Daniels had his coming out game against them. And I think it was week 2 or week 3 last year, Monday Night Football, where he was throwing a party against them. I think a lot of teams are going to be throwing a party against this team. I think they're going to be able to run the ball against them. Offense, they could put up 45, 50 points. That defense is going to let them get 55 points put up on them. So until they prove me wrong on the defense side of the ball, I don't know how this Bengals team is going to look. They might have arguably the best quarterback in the league in Joe Burrow and probably the best wide receiver in the league in Jamar Chase. They got a pretty good running back than Chase Brown, but that defense gives me cause for concern. Honestly, I got them finishing third in the AFC North right now. Brandon, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this team, though. What you got, man?
Yeah, so how did we get here, everyone? We had contract extension for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins this past offseason a couple months ago. I think Burrow got extended the offseason before. And the first rounder, he finally got his coins as well. I think Cincinnati will finish second in 2025. Everyone keeps talking about their defense, and we had some agreements in this as well. That'll be whether or not they're good in 2025. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go with their first 4 games. they've been getting off the slow starts probably the last 2 or 3 years, and it really impacted them this past season for sure. I think they was 0-3 after 3 games. They didn't win their first game until week 4 last year. They have the opportunity to win at least 2 out of 4, I think, this coming year. They got Cleveland, Jacksonville, Minnesota, and Denver. I think Cleveland and Jacksonville are winnable. Even though Cleveland is sneaky against Cincinnati, they have owned Joe Burrow most of his career as well. Um, so many players, you hear it left and right, they want to play their best football in January, December, January. I think Cincinnati, again, they need to get off to play their best football in September, so they're not fighting for their lives later in the year in December, January, where everybody else feels like they need that pickup and to be playing their best. But Joe Burrow, he's the real deal. I'm expecting another MVP caliber season. I think he would have won it last year if they had won a few more games. Perhaps even they had got into the playoffs. You know, they needed some help there in week 17 and 18, even though they won, I think, their last so and so. I can't remember how many games to get even in the contention of a wild card in that 7 seed, but they just missed it in AFC. I think their X factors though this year, I'll be watching Cam Taylor Britt and their rookie from last year, I believe he's a rookie, Andrea Iosivas. I think that's how you pronounce his
Oh,
name.
UCVA, yeah, the wide receiver.
UC Boss, thank you. Cam, he needs to tighten up his coverage. He was getting beat left and right last year, and I think y'all was one of the first
Like
teams that
a
was to
drum.
expose him. Yes, thank you. And the wide receiver, man, I'm looking for a breakout season for him. He already has 2 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns in his first 2 years. I'm sorry, he was in his sophomore year last year, going into year 3. He averages more than 10 yards a catch. So if you pair that into Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, who are basically unstoppable already, if Joe Burrow gets him on another level, I think we'll see this offense continue to grow and help that defense out. That, as you said, again needs help. I think again they need to get off to a fast start to likely make the playoffs, but if not, Zach Taylor and that coaching staff, they may be out the door. I think they'll be on the hot seat if they cannot get off to a fast start this year and make some noise in the AFC.
Got you. So second for you, third for me. See how it goes. Let's get into the Cleveland Browns. Clown franchise for the most part throughout their history. I mean, they had a couple of good years where they made the playoffs, things like that. We talked about it earlier with Shador Sanders, that whole circus. Good luck to that young man. But overall, looking at the team, I think the defensive side of the ball, they're gonna make some noise. First pick or first round pick, number 5 out of Michigan, go blue, defensive tackle Mason Graham. He gets added to a defensive line that has arguably the best edge rusher, defensive lineman in the game, and Myles Garrett. Second round, they drafted a linebacker out of UCLA, Carson Swetchinger. Second round again, they drafted a running back who kind of had some off the field issues after he was drafted out of Ohio State, Quashawn Judkins. He's going to, be replacing Nick Chubb as well as other running backs. Excuse me, that they have on the roster. Looking at who they let go, though, they released safety Juan Thornhill, defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson. They waived their cornerbacks Anthony Kendall, waived another linebacker in Tugisi Nomura. Apologies certified. Butchered your name there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, another player that they drafted, kind of 2 or 3 guys they drafted on 1 year's deal. One guy, a name that we all recognize, Devin Bush, linebacker. They also signed Jerome Baker. Another guy I want to say he played for the Dolphins. It could be the Bucks I'm thinking of, but linebacker Joe Tryon Shoyinka. I think these pieces on the defensive side of the ball, Denzel Ward, my opinion, like top 5 type cornerback. I think that defense is gonna make some noise, keep the offense involved. I think Joe Flacco, he even though he's long in the tooth, you know, I call him Joe Fluco because he'll go out there, throw 2 interceptions, and the next week he looks like a Super Bowl contender. You never kind of know what you get with him, but I think he'll be steady for that offense. I like my guy Jerry Jeudy. He's a really good deep threat, and he's a speedster in my opinion. So Honestly, I've even with all that being said, just like I said, clown franchise, I got them finishing fourth place right now, but I think I think they're gonna win one game against everybody in in y'all division, honestly. I think they'll have a chance to beat y'all. It's those division games and the Browns, they can play teams good. Is this they have those games, they have those times where you just like, God damn, they terrible. But then we have years like in years past. Shout out to my god dad, Mark. I think it was like 2 years ago. It was a Monday night game, and me and you were saying, yeah, the Bengals gonna whoop them. And my god dad picked the Browns, and the Browns went out there and spanked them. And they have games like that too. So even that being said, though, I still think they're gonna finish in fourth place. I just think the quarterback situation, Joe Flacco, as I like to call him, even though he's a Super Bowl winner, all respect to him. I think that situation is going to be in flux. Kenny Pickett's probably going to play. They got probably going to put Dylan Gabriel in. Um, I think Shador Sanders will play if somebody like gets hurt. 2, 3 guys get hurt. Even though they'll probably still bring in another quarterback. Jameis Winston might come back for all we know. He played before Shador Sanders, but I think that quarterback situation is going to be in flux. I honestly could see them fighting for first number one pick next year and try to get this Archie Manning fella out of Texas that is on the draft boards. But we'll see. But yeah, I got them finishing fourth, Brandon. What are your thoughts on the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, speaking of the draft next year, they got 2 first round picks because they got the Jags pick for when they trade up
That's
for
right.
Travis Hunter. So depending on how Jacksonville ends up, they may just, again, they may just automatically fall into that number one spot. You never know. But Miles Garrett, he is a freak of nature. Trust me, we know from having to play him twice a year. Um, I went from hoping and praying that he was going to get traded when he put in that trade request back in January, February, March, to just probably just going like this when he got that extension because we're stuck with him for another more than likely 4 or 5 years. He'll be leading a top 5 or 10 defense, as you mentioned. Already had himself. He was second in the league in sacks. He could have won the sack title, but Hendrickson had a good week 18. They've got Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, in my opinion, 2 of the best corners in the league, maybe one of the top 5 corner tandems. As you mentioned, they signed Devin Bush in the offseason, and then they added Mason Graham, as you mentioned, from University of Michigan, and Carson Swishinger in the draft. They was touting him as one of the best linebackers heading into the draft back in April. Um, the only unfortunate thing for them on the defensive side of the ball is they lost JOK last year, and I think he's going to be out for most of this season. He suffered a gruesome injury. He was an up and coming star there at the linebacker position for them. Um, but I still think they'll be one of the best units in the league. Offensive side of the ball concerns me with them. How will Joe Flacco fare in his second stint there in Cleveland? Will Gerard Ford be a consistent force at running back? He didn't manage to get over 92 yards rushing in a single game last year. 92 yards, not bad, but we want to see 100-yard games if you're there for Cleveland. I mean, that's part of your identity is trying to run the ball. And will Jerry Jeudy, will he be able to pick up where you left off? You mentioned him as well. I actually think this defense will keep them in a lot of games. That's a very good defense out there. I don't think a lot of people realize that. You do yourself, but I don't think a lot of people realize how good they are because they have those games where they just, manage to just lose on head scratching situations. But I got them finishing third. It may surprise a lot of people, but I think Cleveland can finish third in the AFC North this year, uh, especially with that defensive unit there. And if they get just enough out of the offense, 17, 20 points out of the offense, and get yourself a touchdown here or there on the defensive side of the ball, plus some turnovers, I think they can win some games in 2025.
All right.
All right, Mike Tomlin, he's never had a losing season during his time in Pittsburgh, but there's been a lot of turnover there in Western Pennsylvania heading into 2025. The Steelers, in my opinion, they're at their best when they draft great, when they run the ball, and they play stout defense. That's why their defense, they went, defense side of the ball with 3 out of their first 4 draft picks, all but 2 overall in the entire draft class were on the defensive side of the ball. and 3 of those defenders all play on the defensive line because they really got beat up by the offensive units on the back part of the season last year, which I'm gonna get to in a little bit. Secondary is a little bit old to me to be going up against the likes of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins twice a year, Zay Flowers, Bateman, Jerry Judy. All those guys can just flat out run. So we'll see how Darius Slay, big play Slay, they call him, during his time in Philly. And I was just watching him last night. I'm drawing the blanks.
Jalen Ramsey.
Thank you, Jalen Ramsey and Joey Porter Jr. Let's see how they are able to defend some of these speedy receivers in the AFC North. And they've also struggled against the tight end as well, which I don't think they've improved that phase um of their defense. The linebacker core, they're good against the run. They've got Peyton Wilson, I think his name is. He's sideline to sideline, made a big play against us last year. Patrick Queen can defend the run, but those guys are not good against the pass. So we'll see how that goes coming up this year. They gave up a lot of points and rushing yards last season. I got to see improvements for me to pick this team to go better. Offensively, I don't feel like Aaron Rodgers is enough to make them a contender, in my opinion. No disrespect, Aaron Rodgers is my guy. I loved him in Green Bay, but I think the Steelers are that type of team where they need to draft a quarterback and develop them. Ben Roethlisberger, you go back to Terry Bradshaw days, even Tommy Maddox back in the day. All those guys were drafted. Cordell Stewart when he was there, and Cordell and Tommy weren't the best, but they were all drafted. So another thing with this offense, their passing game needs to get better. They did bring in DK Metcalf. We'll see how that goes. They don't really have, to me, a legitimate threat outside of him. So when you have possibly him getting doubled, God forbid he gets injured, I want to see how this offense responds. I know they got a good tight end, but you need wide receivers as well. And Arthur Smith, he likes to run the ball. So we'll see how that goes as well. Running back from last year is gone. Najee Harris is gone. So Jalen Warren is going to be taking all the the bulk of the carries there in Pittsburgh. But all in all, there's no iron team. And what I mean by that is a lot of these guys that were responsible for that late season collapse last year, they're still on this roster. I mean, they got good guys on this roster, but a lot of them are there. I think they lost like 5 straight down the stretch. They got embarrassed by Kansas City on Christmas Day. They got embarrassed in that wild card game in Baltimore where we just ran the ball down their throats. I think more than 250 yards on the ground. All in all, we put on them. That's not Steelers defense. I think overall during that entire losing streak, they was giving up 160 yards on the ground per game. And trust me, that is not how they like to play there. So we got to see, again, I got to see the improvements to believe it. It's hard for me, though, to think that they will not finish with a winning record. So I'm not going to say that because we know Tomlin has had a winning record every year since he's been there, going on, I think, 18 or 19 years right now. But I do think they'll be at the bottom. I think that Cleveland is – their defense is a step ahead of them. And again, if they get enough out of that, out of their offense, they'll be better. Cincinnati has a high-flying offense. And, of course, Baltimore is Baltimore, and that's not even being biased. I think Pittsburgh will end up 4th. But how do you feel about them?
I got to ask you a question real quick about your prediction. So you got them finishing 4th. That means they won't make the playoffs, right?
Correct.
So do you think Mike Tomlin will survive if they don't make the playoffs? You think he'll be
I know we disagree on this, and we've talked about it several times, but Pittsburgh does not fire coaches. And I think the first time they fired an offensive coordinator was a couple years ago. I can't remember the guy's name. That offense was horrendous. It was great against us. Don't get me wrong, but they were horrendous. And that was the first time they ever fired an offensive coordinator. So if they fire a head coach, that would be absolutely – you probably be watching NBC Nightly News and see it on there. The World News, you would see it on there. They be talking about it over in Japan and China somewhere about that because that's just something that they do not do in Pittsburgh. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, stuck around all them for 15, 16 years a pop. They've had 3 coaches since the 70s, I believe it was, when Chuck Noll just first got hired. They just do not fire head coaches. And again, I don't think the playoffs too much factors into it with them. They know at the end of the day, the Rooney family knows that they need a quarterback to win, and they need to draft well. That's how they did it. That's how they did it in 2000. I think 2008 or so, the last time they won the Super Bowl. They won two within I think 5 years. That's how they did it then. That's how they did it back in the 70s when Terry Bradshaw was winning all them Super Bowls. They need a quarterback, so I think they'll give him a little bit more time. That GM though, he's not safe though. Omar Khan, he part of the problem. He need to go. But Mike Tomlin will be there next year.
Okay. All right. We'll see. All right. As you mentioned though in your analysis, there was a bunch of turnover. Let's get into a little bit who's off the team now. Both quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, they're gone. George Pickens, he got traded. He's with the Cowboys now. Oh God. Van Jefferson, he's gone. As you mentioned, Najee Harris is gone. Minka Fitzpatrick, their safety is gone. Um, let's talk about some of the additions though. As you mentioned, Aaron Rodgers is there. Helmet boy Mason Rudolph, he's with the team. DK Metcalf, as you mentioned, Robert Woods, a wide receiver. I think this might be sneaky good for them. Jonnu Smith, I think he's with the Dolphins last year. He was pretty good towards the end of the year. I could definitely see Aaron Rodgers and him have a nice connection. And then the cornerbacks you mentioned, of course, Darius Slade, Jalen Ramsey are here, and Juan Thornhill. He's now with the Steelers. As you mentioned, they drafted Derek Harmon in the draft. You talked about earlier in the opening drive, the knee injury he had where he carted off. He had a knee sprain, but we'll see how long if he's out or if his injury will hamper him going into the season. I definitely would like to see how he looks with that defensive line because the guys who's having a contract, negotiations. I can't remember his name right now. Been with the team the longest, but we'll
Cam
see how
Hayward.
that. Thank you, yeah, Cam. So we'll see how they look. I definitely think they'll need some new young blood on that defensive line. You talk about the running game with Jalen Warren. I want to see if this running back they drafted in the third round out of Iowa, Caleb Johnson, if he's going to have any impact on the running game. I think he will. I think Jalen Warren, I like him as a running back. I thought he was a little bit better than Najee Harris, but I think they'll see some things with Caleb Johnson. I wouldn't be surprised, like towards the later end of the year, if he starts getting a lot of carries as well. This Caleb Johnson. Um, Mike Tomlin though is like he can have, he had Kenny Pickett, he had Mason Rudolph, and they still were able to win games. I just can't really go against him. I think he's going to have this team ready to play. I think Aaron Rodgers, second year coming off this Achilles injury, even though he's another year older, I think he'll be a little more fresh in the legs, not dealing with that Achilles injuries and rehabbing from it. I think a season of or off season of just preparing for football and things like that will help him out, and he'll be a good addition for the offense. I think they'll run the ball, don't have him throwing is a lot, but I think him and DK Metcalf will have a good connection. I really do think Jonnu Smith will make some noise along with the move, Pat Fryer move. I think those three will be really good together. So honestly, I got them finishing second in the AFC North. I think Mike Tomlin and the Steelers will find ways to win games, and I got them finishing in second right now in the AFC North. But we'll definitely see how it goes. All right, now what I'm mostly interested in is the Baltimore Ravens. Brandon, I really want to hear your thoughts on this, so I'm gonna let you get into it. What are your thoughts on the Baltimore Ravens going to this new year?
Yeah, first shout out to our owner, Steve Bisciotti, head coach John Harbaugh, and our quarterback, Lamar Jackson, and honorable mention GM Eric DaCosta. When those three plus the GM are on the same page, organization is typically a winner. We're blessed, honestly, in Baltimore to have those guys. I know sometimes it does. Uh, some decisions John Harbaugh makes me scratch my head. Some decisions EDC makes as far as keeping players around that probably have gone past their time, um, past their prime in a sense. Um, that also make me scratch my head. But again, when you have um, continuity like that, Kansas City, even Pittsburgh over the years, besides the quarterback situation, um, those teams have typically proven winners. Philadelphia as well, but turning the page to on the field, basically our draft class, man, I think this will go down as one of the best draft classes for us of all time. Malachi Starks, the safety, the number one pick for us, Mike Green in the second round. He led the FBS in sacks. Emory Jones, he'll likely be a red shirt. I think he's dealing with some injuries. He's on the offensive line. Tyler Lute, the kicker, he's been named the starting kicker earlier this week or last week. And LaJohntay Webster, um, the standout wide receiver from Colorado. He's probably going to win the punt or kickoff returner job. We'll know he'll be on the roster for sure. Just the way he played in that first game, it's just a given right now. And that's just the early standouts. Unfortunately, we lost 2 6-rounders to injury for the year. I believe it was a corner and a safety or something like that.
Was it a longer beam?
That sounds familiar. I can't remember their names, but I think they had some lower body injuries in the first preseason game, and they're, I believe, going to be out for the season. So that's unfortunate. We did have several other draft picks. I'm really high on this draft class. But turning the page to what things we need to improve on, not lowering ourselves to our competition. For example, week 2 last year against the Raiders, we got secondary got torched. I remember it was so bad after the game, and I think they came back from like 14 down or something like that and beat us. It was at home. It was our home opener. So bad after the game. I think I told you about this on the show that Ravens fans are outside M&T Bank Stadium looking for Marlon Humphrey, and they were dogging him. And he was so confused. He went to the left side of the parking lot. He went to the right side, and then he went back to the left, like he didn't know where he forgot. So I think they got to him, and after that, they did kind of improve from there. Secondary. Speaking of Marlon Humphrey, secondary needs to play up to our standards. One thing he mentioned this offseason, I think it was during OTAs, is that he wants to get back to the old school Ravens defense the old school Ravens where we were known for our defense. Obviously, he doesn't want to see a regression in our offense and our special teams, but we were known for defense for years and years and years. So we need to get back to that, especially on the way we played during the first half of the season. Special teams coverage. I think we gave up 2 punt returns for kickoffs last year. Can't have it. We specialize in special teams as well. We got a special teams head coach. So our special teams has improved in the first 2 preseason games. Of course, some of those guys are not going to be on the roster, but some of those guys are going to be on the roster and going to be playing special teams that we saw out there in the first 2 preseason games. Covering the tight end, always been an Achilles heel for us. We got to get better with that. Figuring out who's going to be next to Roquan Smith. Last year, we started with Trenton Simpson. Didn't really work out. We went to, I think, Malik Harrison and another guy. Both of those guys are gone. Malik signed with the arch rival in Pittsburgh. He was talking a little bit of smack, so I'll be looking forward to playing him the first time we play Pittsburgh, just like Patrick Queen did last offseason. But we got to get better at covering the tight end, because if you can't get better at something you consistently bad, that's where teams attack you. A la Cincinnati's pass coverage. Just think about it. All right. And our left guard and our right guard, we got to see how they're going to pan out. We got Voorhees starting at left guard. He's taking the place of Patrick McCurry, who went to Jacksonville. He's like a flex type. He played every position for us. And again, now he's down there with Jacksonville protecting Trevor Lawrence. And then our right guard, Daniel Faalele, he struggled last year to start, and then he got a whole lot better because they put him at they started him at right tackle, if I'm not mistaken, and then they put Rose Garden in, who is a natural right tackle. They moved Faalele on the inside, the right guard. He is like massive. I think he's like the largest or the second largest offensive lineman in the league. Honestly, a lot of Ravens fans think he's too big to be playing guard or even center, which of course he probably wouldn't go to center unless Lindenbaum got hurt. But hopefully he's improved. I know during the first 2 preseason games, Ravens fans have been hot on Twitter saying that Faalele needs to be benched, but we honestly don't have anybody that's better than him that can start at right guard right now. So we may be stuck with him for a little bit. Definitely until possibly Emory Jones comes back off his injury, that rookie 3rd rounder for us. I'm excited to see, of course, LJ entering, I think, year 8 for him. Just seems to get better and better as time goes on. He is Joe Burrow's daddy, and I hope I don't regret my my words later in the year. when we play Cincinnati. I'm also excited to see Bateman and Flowers. I want to see them both push for 1,000 yards. Flowers got it last year. It would be historic for us. We never had two 1,000-yard receivers in one season. We've Flowers became the first Ravens receiver that we drafted to become to get 1,000 yards last season. I want to see Mike Green, number 45. He's that linebacker I told you about, second round pick out of Marshall, I believe. Again, I think he had like 16 sacks last year in college. We need a premier pass rusher. I mentioned in our shows last year, and I think in the offseason, Cincinnati has Hendrickson. Of course, that's up in the air right now, whether he's going to be back. Pittsburgh has TJ Watt, and Cleveland has the freak of nature at Myles Garrett. We need somebody that can every game that they're going to game plan for opposing offenses and offensive coordinators, keep them up at night. Kyle Van Noy has been solid, but he's getting a little bit older. I want to see somebody young come in there and make some noise because David Ajobo and Adafe Owe, they haven't necessarily lived up to their high draft grades. So hopefully Mike Green can be that guy. I'm also looking forward to see how Starks and Wiggins do together. I think Wiggins was like one of the top corners in pass coverage last year.
Mm-hmm.
Our number one pick from last year, man, the guy was just on point. And this year he'll be starting because thank the Lord, Brandon Stevens was not re-signed. He is up with the Jets. Man, we needed that. And then Tyler Loop, man, the kicker, he's replacing the future Hall of Famer and Justin Tucker. He's looked pretty good in the preseason first two games. He only missed 2 kicks. Of course, he had 6 at Dallas last week. That was indoors. So hopefully I want to send a plea out to the Commanders and the weather gods, make a little wind tomorrow at Northwest Stadium. Push our defense, stop our offense, at around the 40-yard line. Let's get some long kicks. Let's get some short kicks, all that kind of stuff. I want to see how he does in our third preseason game. Let's get our kinks out in the preseason. But yeah, we fully expect to be in the playoffs this year. Honestly, Ravens fans, I think we have talent damn near at every position. We got a good amount of depth. We got a premier quarterback. We got 3 runners that can all be starters in this league. 2 or 3 wide receivers. I didn't even mention DeAndre Hopkins. We still got Tylen Wallace, who's a good receptions guy. We got a guy that you mentioned last offseason. He was a rookie, Tez Walker. He's like that. Again, Webster. So he'll probably be involved in the offense probably a little bit later in the season. 2 tight ends. I know Likely is coming off of injury right now. We got a pretty solid offensive line. Ronnie Stanley is back. Knock on wood that he will last the whole season like he did last year. The last time, unfortunately, he signed an extension. He got injured for the season, so hopefully it's not the same. We got probably the best center in football behind Creed Humphrey, I believe it is, in Kansas City. We got Linderbaum there. That's Lamar's guy he takes a snap from. We got up and coming right tackle in Rosengarten.
Yeah.
We know the linebacker position, Roquan Smith, how he is. The secondary is being touted as one of the best in the league by NFL Network, ESPN, all those people. One of the better punters in the league, and Jordan Stout. I can go on, and I'm not even being biased. It is what it is. We just naturally draft good players, and we've signed good players as well. If we play our own game and don't beat ourselves, think back to the divisional round last year against Buffalo, the AFC Championship the year before against Kansas City. We were better teams in both of those games, honestly, or heading into both of those games, and we just beat ourselves. Bonehead mistakes. Probably made our bonehead of the week with me or yourself after both of those games last year because we just made mistake after mistake after mistake and got eliminated from the playoffs. Kansas City went on to win the Super Bowl, of course, that year. Buffalo went on to lose a tight game there in Kansas City. We could have been there. We could have been in the Super Bowl, getting Lamar Jackson that trophy that I really want for him this year. I want him to win the Super Bowl more than, honestly, the rest of the team. And that's no disrespect to the rest of the team, but it's Lamar faces so much criticism. Young black quarterback. He had that draft day statement that he's going to bring a Super Bowl to Baltimore. So, of course, that brought even more attention to him. He came out as a rushing quarterback. His arm throws used to be like this, and it wasn't like he was making those Patrick Mahomes type plays. It was just he just literally had, as a rookie, he struggled throwing the ball. So I want to see him win that Super Bowl. Hopefully it's this year, if not in the next couple years. At least win one. Obviously we want multiple, but just give me one. So yeah, I like the Ravens to finish first in the AFC North. I think we'll win it again for the third straight year. But we'll see how it goes. Knock on wood, we don't have any major injuries. And one last thing, we got to eliminate penalties, man. We were tops in the league last year in penalties. If not tops, we were probably top 5. So eliminate those penalties. That way we can get it done. How do you feel about the Ravens?
Yeah, man. With all that being said, following you, I agree. I think they're going to be in first place, the AFC North as well. As you mentioned, though, with all that being said, I think the pressure is on. I think his AFC Championship or bust, in my opinion. Lamar Jackson, like you said, beat themselves, bonehead plays, turnovers, things like that. Lamar, you got to be on your A game, and I'm talking about in the playoffs because I fully expect y'all to win the division. I got y'all coming out the AFC. Honestly, I think it's AFC Championship or bust. Like you said, the secondary is on paper looking great. Y'all picked up Jair Alexander from the Packers. I think that'll be a really good addition for that defense. So I honestly think y'all should be able to do enough to win this division. I think Lamar Jackson is like a nuclear bomb, running and passing the ball. So I think y'all should win this division. I got y'all winning at least 12 games. I think y'all should win this division, but every year y'all get to the playoffs and something dumb happens, turnover, or you play down to the level of competition, you just don't show up. So I'm hoping this is the year that y'all break free. Y'all beat, the Bills of the AFC, the Kansas Cities of the AFC, whoever comes out the AFC, I gotta play. I hope y'all beat them and get to the Super Bowl this year. Because I think the pressure is on. Y'all, if y'all have another collapse in the playoffs or Lamar plays bad, there's gonna be a lot of chatter, even though I know he's got a contract extension and everything like that. There's going to be a lot of chatter about maybe breaking things up in the near future here. I don't know if it'd be Harbaugh. I don't know if it'd be Lamar, but I really think the pressure is on right now, and y'all got to deliver. But for all that being said, I do got y'all finishing in the first place and winning this division.
And 2 more points to add to what you said. As far as the playoffs go, we cannot lose to anybody else but Buffalo and Kansas City, because God forbid if he loses to somebody like Bo Nix and the
Oh yeah,
Broncos, or Joe Burrow, who's already been to the Super Bowl, or even Pittsburgh coming in with Aaron Rodgers at 41. They will blow up Lamar even more than what he already faces. And number 2, speaking of Lamar, oh, please protect Lamar. That's talking the offensive line and the good Lord above, because if we have to rely on Cooper Rush or Devin Leary, where is Trace McSorley or Snoop Tyler Huntley when we need him? Please don't let Lamar get injured, because man, Cooper Rush, he was good in Dallas, but he's not looking good this preseason so far. And Devin Leary, man, oh man, I think I sent you the video. If I'm on Facebook, they was talking about he need to go. One of the comedians, he's a big Ravens fan. The kid Goey, I think is his name on
yep,
Facebook.
I remember.
Talking about Devin Leary, man, especially after that first preseason game, it's just terrible, man. But yeah, hopefully the Ravens do good, and hopefully your predictions are right. They come out of the AFC, and we'll see who you think is going to win the Super Bowl in a couple weeks when we go for that. So we'll be looking forward to that.
Yes, sir.
All right, everyone, that's going to do it for this episode of the Breaking Inner Podcast. AFC North breakdown. Only division we got left is NFC East. How will my father's Giants do? They're looking good in the preseason, but we already know how they're brutal their first 8 or 9 games is. Will the Eagles win it all again? Ed's Commanders, is his top Pro Bowl wide receiver going to be back in the season? If not, how will that impact them come the regular season, and will that impact Ed's predictions on his 2025 Commanders? Come back next week and find out. And of course, we got to talk about the Cowboys. I mean, that's everybody's American team. They got a lot going on down there with a big contract situation as well. In the meantime, everyone, please hit the subscribe button on your screen. Follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Podcast BNE, and on IG at BNE Podcast. See you all soon. Until next time, love one another.